all the time too, right? So check it out. It's going to be a fun time. Now into draft.
I mean, kind of just yelling out stuff is what casting is.
I mean, that's my job.
Yeah.
My job's to just yell stuff out. That's the name of the game.
I just think with the augments, it makes it like particularly chaotic, right? Like, did you guys see the one where the Nautilus got like so much health off of the augment that gives you like both health and largeness?
Tank
He was,
engine
like,
Goliath,
clipping
steal your
through.
heart.
Yeah, he was like clipping through the actual game.
I feel like every clip I've ever seen of ARAM Mayhem is just somebody bigger than the map. Like,
Yeah,
walking
exactly. And it's like usually a Nautilus.
The really big and the really small stuff is the most new.
Yeah.
Right. It's just funny. All right, let's go ahead and get into our draft. And Emily, you already mentioned it. We are underway here in game number 2.
Just lock
C9.
in.
Yeah.
First pick, flex pick Anivia.
Yep.
Yep.
C9 is going to go ahead and ban out the Karma, the Ori, and the Pantheon, disguised, getting rid of APA Ziggs alongside the Jarvan and the Varus power picks yet again. First pick, flex pick Anivia. Like you said, Jatt, the bird can go a couple of different places these days as C9 responds. Last game, remember, Disguise first picked a bird, and then C9 responded with a power bot lane.
True.
And now this game, Disguise first picks a bird, and what do we get? Corki Nami from C9.
But now
Enchanter.
the bird is probably going into the bot lane. So I'm going to say I do think I'm going to make the assumption potentially going into bot. I think they should leave it up as a flex, especially since Ryze is still available. You might want to play the Anivia into that. But we did see Lyonz play this previously, and I actually thought that they were going to get kind of turbo stomped by that FlyQuest bot lane. They didn't. They actually played that pretty well, despite the fact that they did end up losing the game. So looking for a little bit more bot lane power on top of this Nocturne pick locked in for KryRa.
Yeah, remember that Nocturne was one of the champions banned in the second half of the draft in the previous game because C9 had their jungler in the first half. Disguise did not. This time around, since you're keeping that Anivia a flex between mid and support, you don't want to go ahead and pick your mid laner early along with it. So Disguise will get their jungler before that second part of the bans comes in, and C9 are going to go ahead, they'll say, fine, we'll switch it up from last time. We'll pick our mid laner. The jungle will remain open. It's Annie for APA.
And Blaber has the option of going with some more utility picks. He's actually been pretty successful on things like Malphite or Sejuani, so it's really hard to ban him out in this instance with them having the Annie locked in, which is also a flex pick. Annie's been getting more play in the top lane.
In the top lane, yeah.
Especially over in like Korean solo queue, so Thanatos very well could play this depending on how the rest of the draft plays out.
Keep an eye on it. I always like those kind of weird flex picks as they start to emerge to see who's going to be the first person to really start adapting this, seeing if they can make it work in stage games versus just in ladder games. But that Ryze that we mentioned, that's banned away. So the Wukong going to be banned out now by Disguise as well.
Yeah, and I like that takeaway from Disguised. Obviously, Wukong, Annie fit together like insanely well in a variety of team compositions. Really great CC chain and follow-up, especially in tandem with that Corki Nami. So good of DSG to take that off the board. And also good to take the Ryze off the board because I think Ryze, especially in tandem with Nocturne, just gives you so much side lane control. So just yoinking that and being like, you know what, we're not going to pick it. We're going to take it away from you. And then taking away the Rumble from Castle, who I think has been like a bright spot, right? Like we talked about all of the plays that they were trying to make mid while C9 was kind of stomping on the bot side of the map. I thought Castle did well in his matchup. He had a few good flanks. He had some less successful flanks, we'll just say, Jatt. So taking that kind of power pick away from him, I think is really good.
I like the cute Vayne ban hover before actually banning the Gnar. They're thinking about the Gnar Vayne matchup in the top lane because if you're C9 right now, you kill the Annie's flexibility by blind picking Gnar. So, but it's also one of the best blind picks for Thanatos to do, so I understand why they would ban it away. And if they end up actually locking in this Ambessa, they'll still be able to hold their flexibility, which keeps their options open in this draft because DSG is still not committed either, and it'll be fully committed, generally speaking, after these next two picks.
Yeah, I do like the Ambessa here. The only thing that I don't like here is picking something that is very obviously a top laner and a top laner only, because I feel like you're losing your advantage of red side 5th pick by doing so. You want to make sure that they have to be the ones blinding the top laner. Disguise, I mean, Renekton is kind of the evergreen,
the
just
ultimate,
pick it into anything top lane pick, right? So not surprised at all to see that one locked in there for Castle. And now for Disguise. Last time around, they cycled through a bunch of potentially interesting stuff. I've been casting League of Legends. This is my 10th year casting professional League of Legends. I know better than to get bamboozled by this now. I'm not just going to believe whatever they hover. Okay, Akali locked in, which means that Anivia is 100% confirmed going into that support role for Lyonz yet again.
Yep, and they were going to be okay with that, locking it into the Corki Nami. Then pretty happy with the matchup they're going to have into the Annie, and now we're going to see where C9 goes, whether or not they're flexing, and they are. We are going to see the hovered band that DSG considered between Gnar Vayne, and we get to see Thanatos Vayne into Renekton with the Ambessa flexing down into jungle after the Renekton was locked in to hopefully counter it. They're trying to be sneaky.
Yeah, I love this. I think Thanatos continues to be one of, if not the best top laner in the LCS, right? Like, having a pick like this where he should be able to lane really well into this Renekton, it does take away a key component of C9's team composition, which is having a front line, which is always kind of the danger of these kind of top lane Vayne picks, but it's not like DSG have a super heavy-duty front line either outside the Renekton, so
here's my big thing with this, guys. Whenever I see a matchup between two teams where one is ranked very highly, C9 in this case, and one is ranked much lower in the standings by practically everybody's view of the power rankings, right? The team that's ranked lower, I always want to see them have more definitive go buttons. I want to see them have more engage. I want to see them be able to make choices when, where, and how they want to. But for Disguised, I'm kind of struggling to see where that happens here because I don't really know what the big engage is.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think it's going to be difficult, especially if they do not get this bot lane going early, right? Like if that does not happen, if this Caitlyn and Anivia lane is not able to kind of take over the bot side of the map and they aren't able to make those side lane plays with the Nocturne, I think it gets super, super difficult for DSG pretty quickly. And it is kind of sad because I feel like DSG, when they first came in, were the kind of like trust me dead ass team, right? With like the Nasus top, with believing in their selves. But Clayton, we're going to revisit the blasting cycle.
Well, our question in game number 1 was, okay, Blaber blasted Griffin, Griffin blasted KryRa. Where does the blasting wand aim now here that we get to see KryRa versus Blaber? And unfortunately for the Disguise side in game number 1, the blasting wand was aimed right back at KryRa. That's actually a Seraphine Encore flying out of the blasting wand from the bottom lane that had control the entire time. Blaber just helped them extend their lead even further, and the rest was history.
Through the Xin Zhao as well, because Blaber did the most damage in the game along with Zven. They were both around like 26,000, but Enchanter plus Xin can also be absolutely insane.
Oh, it's nasty.
On the team composition point though, Emily, I think the Nocturne Akali is hoping to just be dive buddy for any squishy, as long as Callme can get into a decent position in the game. So if they're set up first in an objective and the Akali doesn't have to show, Nocturne ults as soon as the Akali shows, and they can, in theory, kill anyone in the game. So the bot lane sets all that up in the first place, but that is the idea. It just doesn't have a good fallback pattern in terms of team composition.
Right, and that's where I worry, because again, when you have a team that's ranked more highly, when you versus a team that's ranked lower, generally that higher ranked team is going to be more consistent. So I kind of worry about, okay, well, if you don't have the consistency to make sure you get off to that good start, or at least the decent start that you need, and there's no fallback plan, I'm worried.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're looking at top lane right now because as we see, the Renekton is not having a fun time in this Vayne lane. And I think Castle has been kind of a bright spot on DSG, even when they've been struggling. He was kind of looking like one of the potential answers in the last game as well, in addition to Callme. And he's been one of their more consistent performers. And it makes this matchup against C9 particularly difficult just because of how strong Thanatos is.
Completely agree. And a lot of this comes down to KryRa, and a lot of these moves that C9 is pulling off are kind of daring KryRa to stop you. So Thanatos takes top lane Vayne with TP, no cleanse. So in theory, if there's like a good gank timing, it's a flash W from the Renekton, and then Nocturne walks up and kills the Vayne. But if Thanatos ends up getting the wave too big or the health difference too big before KryRa is able to arrive on a Nocturne, who again is not a good pre-6 ganker, then that lane's going to go really heavily into the side of the Vayne.
So remember in game number 1, we did see around this level 4 point, KryRa coming mid, making that play onto APA. APA getting aggressive, trying to set something up for Blaber. APA ends up giving over the first blood. This time around, though, it looks like Disguised. They don't want to try to make that move against the Annie. Callme is down to about half HP. They have to remember that C9 was also positioning Blaber there in the first game, so they're not going to force anything. KryRa's just going to go ahead, take his recall. You can see Blaber has already done the same.
Yeah, small little jungle optimization. KryRa knows that Blaber's going to be going Raptors Krugs. Blaber did a Raptors first start, which gets his second set of small camps to be up a little bit faster, gives him this window to game.
Okay, Lyonz throws out the wall. APA sidesteps away from the Flash Frost. Callme is down to 200 HP, so even though Lyonz shows up mid and provides this little bit of extra assistance, this extra pressure, Callme doesn't have enough health to work with to follow it up and try to threaten summoner spells onto APA, so the C9 mid laner is still doing just fine.
Yeah, it does relieve a tiny bit of pressure, although now Blaber is kind of sniffing around mid lane.
Yeah, Blaber's not in a rush to finish his next 2 camps. He's been extremely efficient early on. Doesn't even have his wolf spawning yet, so he can really sit here without punishment just so APA can get this wave in, base, and then come back with full mana.
Yeah, and meanwhile, C9 and this Corki Nami have kind of taken over the push on the bot side of the map. At the same time, Lyonz roamed up, so that's not really a coincidence, but...
And you can see as both of our top laners have now gone back and shopped. Castle has already had to go back twice, actually. You can see his teleport desynced from Thanatos's. But the difference is brown boots plus cloth armor versus full Berserker Greaves. Tier 2 boots versus Tier 1 boots. In these range versus melee matchups, the boots are so important, and Thanatos having the boots level advantage is pretty big.
It's just the move speed gap. Thanatos, every time he's on the C9 podcast and they ask about top lane matchup, he's always like, well, if I get boots first, then it's fine. And then I win. And that's what's happening right now. Both junglers as well, not in a rush to finish their 5th camp. They're waiting for the extra jungle cookies to potentially do a smite fight over the Scuttle Crab, which is going to be spawning topside. Also, since Blaber's on Gromp, they kind of really clearly know each other's jungle paths right now. Thanatos, with very reasonable level of certainty, can say that the Nocturne's bot on Gromp, so that's why he's pushing up so aggressively.
Ooh, Callme going very aggressive onto APA here. Uses perfect execution to back to reset his position. Also gets the ulti there out of APA, so flash not used by either one. It is an HP advantage for Callme as he continues to try to play aggressively here with a smoke screen, but Blaber hits level 6. Public execution is ready.
And he wants to stop Drake because he knows Nocturne's not 6, and the only job he would have is to do Drake, and since DSG left the lane, it's obvious that he's there, so they're crossing. Yeah,
Vulcan down to 300 HP here. He does miss the Aqua Prison, but because Blaber is on the approach, because he has that level 6 versus level 5 that you're talking about, Jatt, it means the Disguised has to back away. Now APA getting the better of Callme here in the trade as both mid laners continue to fight for that pressure, fight for that control over mid. And Callme's forced back.
It's the crab gap right there. He knew he was level 6. He knew there was no other job, and he's going for it.
Oh, immediately Blaber's ready to follow it up. The stun from APA sets it up for Blaber to make the flash public execution on the target that cannot be missed, and C9 collects first blood.
Really nice to see that coming out of APA and Blaber. Again, off of the recognition from Blaber, he's able to go down, stop that Drake take, push up in tandem with the Annie. Didn't see the window the first time, got it down this time.
Now they do have to worry, though, about KryRa being level 6 and Blaber using his flash ult, so he's not really on the map. So it's definitely DSG's turn to do something, and Thanatos would be the one in danger, which is why he's going to control Vision River.
All right, 1,500 gold lead. If I'm on Disguised, I'm a little bit worried at that. It's not exactly what you want to see 7 minutes into the game, but it's the opposite story of what we saw in game number 1. Because game number 1, C9's lead was entirely built through the bottom lane duo. Here in game number 2, it's all that top side of the map that favors C9, while it's actually disguised with it feels practically disingenuous to call it a lead because it's just a minion bounces difference in the bottom lane. But still, compared to game number 1 where you're down 30 CS and a level and a half, this is significantly better.
The absence of the deficit makes it feel like a lead.
Yeah,
yes, exactly. Compared to the first game, it is a lead. By a lot. Yeah, it's a little contrarian, but I like it. As Disguised will at least continue trying to maintain some control over this bottom side. We still don't have the first Drake taken. Remember that in game number 1, it was about 8 minutes in that first Drake ended up getting felled as Castle's going to pop the Dominus. Does get Ruthless Predator there onto Thanatos. A little bit of extra range that lends. Means that Thanatos is under pressure, but Thanatos, he stays calm. He doesn't pop Final Hour. He doesn't pop Flash. He's just going to take the recall here.
Yeah, he really didn't want to have to use his ultimate there. Blaber's going to end up covering for him.
APA looks like he might be rotating up.
He's going to give up Drake almost for sure.
Yeah, KryRa's down there at the Drake. He should be able to secure that one for free. Blaber's just going to make sure Thanatos can clear the wave, get the reset that he wants. Blaber just playing around his Vayne, recognizing that if you can get this guy fed, it's going to be worth more than one Drake in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, Cannon Wave. That top laner's very appreciative of this. You never know if it's actually worth it. The top laners will say, yes, absolutely worth it. But it's worth it if Blaber doesn't die on Grubbies here, since now Castle's able to move.
Well, I think it also helps out because it gave Thanatos enough HP to no longer be under the threat of getting one comboed from Castle's Renekton if they tried to dive him. So then he can safely farm up the next wave. And now he can finally take his recall here. Thanatos will be just fine. Blaber gets Constellation Grubs. Disguised gets the first Drake of the game. We'll see if they can set up a follow-up play, but it might just be a chicken steal instead. Nocturne, like most junglers, pretty adept at stealing chickens, since all you need is some basic AoE, and you're going straight to the kernel.
I thought you were going to make a joke, not actually talk about how easy it is to clear. I guess the kernel.
I said you're going straight
joke.
to the kernel. Yeah, you're going to Colonel Sanders, 11 herbs and spices. It's very important for your chicken clearing.
It is.
Okay,
but KryRa's French-Canadian. How do we work this in?
What do French Canadians, how do they eat chicken? With poutine?
No. I mean you can put a lot of stuff on poutine, I guess.
Yeah, that could work. All right, chicken poutine, for sure. Well, we have the Spear of Shojin completed there. MasterCard Power Spike for Blaber completed. Makes Ambessa just that much more obnoxious with all the dashing, the constant spamming of the spells. So definitely not a champion that I think any of the frontline wants to deal with here on the DSG side right now. Still advantages for C9 all across that top half of the map.
But neither team really has made a move to advance the game yet. It's been mostly trading back and forth with the one pick off in the mid lane. Here, Blaber got his chicken stolen, so that gives him a window to go steal blue buff. But at the same time, no one's actually contested an invade yet, and KryRa's yet to use that first Nocturne ultimate. C9 playing very conservatively with all 5 flashes up once Blaber's comes off a cooldown, but all solo lane flashes up is the more important thing to note. So it's really difficult for KryRa to find an ult angle.
Yeah, that's what I've been looking out for as well. Like KryRa trying to find these windows to use his first Nocturne out. Obviously didn't need to use it at uncontested Drake, which usually Drake fights is where we're looking at. But as he comes down on this bot side and we have a little bit more bot lane 2v2 scrapping, he could potentially look for something here, especially since they do have some deep vision.
And I feel like that's kind of the tug of war of ideas you have to have when you play a champion like this, is you want to use your ultimate because it is so effective and it is the point of power. It's why you pick this champion. But at the same time, there's that pressure of the cooldown is so long early on that if you waste it, if you pick the wrong moment, it's just, you feel like you lost so much of your playmaking.
Yeah, but also their CC setup for the Nocturne is just so bad. There's no Nocturne Orianna combo. There's no Azir flip back. They have no way, aside from Renekton, of setting up any CC, and he doesn't want to spend that much time top lane because bot lane and mid would fall apart.
Well, as we're waiting on Nocturne to find that moment for the perfect first ultimate, remember that Spring Finals are going to the Mullet Arena in Arizona, June 13th to 14th, so you can go ahead and scan that QR code. Get your tickets now if you want to come out to a live event. They're always one of my favorite parts of the year. They're always a fun time. And we'll see which one of these teams, if either one of these teams, I'm expecting at least one of these teams will make it to the Mullet Arena.
3 teams will go.
Yeah.
C9 will make it.
Yeah,
I'm expecting C9 to make it. I think most people that follow the LCS are expecting C9 to make it there, expecting them to be one of those top competitors. Disguised, of course, would love to be able to rock that boat a little bit, but they certainly have a lot of work to do after the first game.
They've had moments of rocking the boat. Yeah. And then they just haven't been able to sustain that boat rocking.
Yeah, they never actually capsize it. The boat just rocks a little bit. And then it just goes right back on sail. And Blaber missing the public execution down there. Had that one a little bit askew. So I don't know if you guys have heard this before. I think I remember learning this on a Bwipo stream when I was just watching him play solo queue. Talking about Ambessa, with the way that the hitbox works, notice how you see most players try to take it at diagonal angles?
Yeah.
The line is slightly wider if it's diagonal because of the way it's actually lined up in little right angles. It gets slightly, very slightly wider at a diagonal angle versus doing it straight up and down or straight horizontally. So a lot of times, if you can, you want to angle it horizontally because sometimes if it looks like it might slightly clip to the side, it'll still get the guy.
Man, I really want to believe this.
So do I.
I'm just not sure if that's how it works. We need to get Freak on the
practice.
phone. Someone who knows like how the hitboxes are coded. Because if that's true for every ability. Well, it's just you'll notice it more on Ambessa ult because it's so narrow.
And I think that's what it is.
It goes into like a perfect straight line, yeah.
Callme might just die here to the solo bolo of APA. No, okay, he gets away from the Tibbers. Tibbers is on a crazy full send mission here. But yeah, I think Whippo, if somebody shows you this, Whippo, if somebody shows you this clip and this sounds familiar, please send me a message to confirm or deny this, because I thought for sure I remembered seeing this.
Oh no, I remember him saying this as well. I think.
I want to test it now.
Yeah. But yeah, you're 100% right, Jatt. Like, if it works on one ability, it works on all of them. It's just that Ambessa's ability is like a centimeter wide normally, so it feels more relevant.
And technically, Blaber's Rift Herald last week did come in at the diagonal angle and still missed.
Yeah.
Which makes it even worse.
Because I still think it was aiming at the crust. I ran into Blaber backstage before this series, and I told him I was casting his game today, and he was like, hell yeah, this is going to be a good one. And I told him, just make sure you drive that Herald straight at the turret, brother. Straight at the turret. But now, we've got C9 in Disguised, posturing over this second Drake here. Disguised already has it burnt most of the way down, but Blaber's making his way forward. Drake secured by KryRa before C9 can make their way in. Thanatos has already committed a TP. C9 spending that resource. They really want to try to find something here. Otherwise, it's just a swing and a miss. Aqua Prison forces the flash out of Sajed, but Disguised keeps him alive anyway. Meanwhile, Callme looking for APA here. KryRa over the wall with a nice flash into the pit. Drags KryRa with him. APA trying to guarantee that Disguised at least has to lose a man in the process here, but they don't. Sajed dies to Thanatos off on the side here at the same time as Callme falls. Blaber diving into the middle of everyone here with the Ambessa, but he's locked up, stunned up. Aqua Prism ain't going to do it, but it won't matter. Zven gets the kill on KryRa, and C9 wants more. Right when it looked like Disguised might have got what they wanted and got out with an enemy TP, C9 finds a big fight.
This is how the game breaks open. 30 seconds after the Drake falls, the massive fight breaks out. I mean, all credit actually for starting this fight does go towards APA. Like, the flash that he had afterwards is huge. So essentially what happens here is Sajed potentially dead to rights if Thanatos goes all... Actually, no, he was out. Sajed was out. He just decides to go back into a Vayne who was sitting on a control ward. But the bottom of the screen more so shows APA flashing back to his team. That also gets whatever laning advantage that Castle would have. He sacrifices to try and make this play, but it's not successful since the mid laners trade, and then Blaber is just resetting his cooldowns and going so fast with his Spear of Sajed that he cleans up the extended fight.
Whenever you're up against Nocturne or Vi, any one of these types of champions that has to go with you once they click the button on the ulti, I always love to see players take advantage of that. Flashback, but even against Maokai with his W on Twisted Advance, just anything you can do to drag that champion further than they wanted to extend, making the engage. It's always a big brain play that I enjoy seeing from our players. As C9 now command a 3,500 gold lead. That last fight resolved just in time. APA just being himself. Yapping it up in the alt chat. Nice, guys. Nice, real nice.
Where are the muted stats at? We were having those before the game.
Yeah, we need to bring those back.
After mid-gap, his mutes would have gone up by 1 in my book.
Oof. That takes a ton of damage on that one. But no, what I was saying before, APA was yapping. Hold on now. We got the engage from KryRa right here in the mid lane. Flash out from Zven, keeping himself alive. Castle versus Blaber up here in the top side of the river. Ace in the hole. That looks more like an auto attack than an ulti, but that's fine.
Yeah, and they are going to split tier 1 turrets on either side, but the big difference is C9 still have this Rift Herald, which is going to be crashed into this tier 2 turret. And DSG are not going to be able to do anything about that.
Yeah,
but that tier 1 turret does go down to the Akali.
They won the turret race by like a second. And that's while that Nocturne was trying to ult in the mid lane, knowing there was a guaranteed numbers advantage because it was just Akali on the bot lane and it was Vayne Annie up on the top side. But this is part of what not burning flashes does to kill a Nocturne's momentum. Even though he landed an ultimate, Zven just kind of flashed backwards and no one is able to follow, since this is kind of way too low of a CC team comp to work with a Nocturne who wants to find fights.
And this is what I was saying was my concern back at the very start of the game is, where are your go buttons? Yes, Nocturne can fly in, but when they just do that, now DSG invading again. Looking to try to steal away that chicken camp. Perfect execution. R2 from Callme onto Blaber, but no, over the wall is Blaber. He's doing just fine. He will outplay the enemy mid laner. Blaber's Ambessa 3-0-2, teaching Callme the error of his ways.
The blasting cone is still on the side of Blaber, even though he's blasting players who aren't KryRa, so it's a little modification.
We have to adjust the blasting one.
Another big misplay by DSG in this series is only Sajed, according to our producers, only Sajed has APA muted. So they're all just open.
So they're all just tanking
Open
the
lines of
ATA
communication.
aggro.
Just psychic damage at all points of the game for 0. Okay, well, Sajed's got that going for him, but honestly, I talked earlier on in the game about how the bottom lane was holding more evenly in this second one. Now, ever since that big bottom side fight, everybody on DSG's behind.
Yeah, this game has exploded open for C9, as has the map, right? They just got that entire outer ring of turrets all down. They can now push their vision line up. It makes it a lot safer for someone like Thanatos to just be kind of in a side lane, in addition to the fact that he is up 1.5k over his lane opponent and in a really good position already with his Hexplate complete.
Yeah, that Hex plate makes Vayne very, very scary. And also, because you have the extra health on it, it just makes it that much harder for Renekton to try to burst her down before she just kites you. I mean, Vayne kills anybody in 9 auto attacks, and she kills a lot of champions in 6.
I know, it's actually a real pick now, which is kind of strange. I just think it's legitimate with this Hexplate build. You're ranged enough to get away with it, and then your team fights are enhanced because of the ultimate. So big. I mean, to close this game out, though, C9 does have to be able to secure these objectives, and this is the danger when you try and walk in because you're open to a flank. You have a big gold lead, though.
All right, C9 with a 5,000 lead. Callme approaching on the flank. KryRa dives into the middle of everybody. The burst is down on Zven. They've already killed him, but he's traded for Castle. Blaber's on a rampage here through that one as Thanatos arrives with a teleport of his own, but DSG immediately tries to turn it around. Now Lyonz knocked back into the egg. The CC on a Callme. He can't get what he needs from the dive. And the omelet served sunny side up. A double kill for APA. He's cooking them. Blaber's unstoppable. Yes, they finally killed the AD carry. Disguised, they got their man, but at what cost?
Yeah, and you see the window, right? Like Castle pops Dominus, KryRa goes in, but C9 are able to kind of kite back really well. And you talked about this initially looked like a disastrous TP from Thanatos, and then here's just where Blaber absolutely takes over the fight. You talked about how he wasn't blasting KryRa specifically. He's kind of blasting all of Disguised.
Yes, they have a big goal lead, so take what I say with a grain of salt now. But there's an old rule that I used to have with Nocturne that I feel like was violated with this draft. I think this is part of why it felt weird to me. When things go dark, team want group.
Yes.
With Nocturne, pick AoE.
Yep.
But what happens if no AoE is team group and you lose?
Yeah.
So
Protect
in that
the president.
fight, sure, they got the one, but all of their single target damage was gone, and then they're going to lose the fight every time.
Yeah, and we talked about this from draft, and by contrast, I feel like Blaber can act as follow-up CC, but also has a lot of CC coming out from his team that he can follow up with the Nami bubble and the Annie stun.
Well, C9 have started up this Baron, but they drop it down to about 1/3, and then they let it go. They let it reset. They want to switch over to focus on a potential fight instead. Disguised has brought everybody to the neighborhood here for this potential 5v5. They did arm 3 cupcake traps on that mid lane ramp into the top side river to try to cut off one of those escape angles. Thanatos gets jumped on by Callme. The Vayne's going to be your target here at the very start. Everybody on C9 swooping in to protect their top laner. Enemy jungler down. Callme at least finishes the job, but again, this is the cost. Yes, Disguise can full send and kill one man, and one man is all they will ever get, and it costs them at least half the team every single time. Lyonz and Sajed still alive. Everybody else is dead. That includes the junglers. C9 back on the Baron.
Yep, they'll be able to get Baron off of this, and that's exactly what we're talking about with follow-up CC. Zven?
I think Sven's chilling.
He's got an obsession with taking mid waves.
Yeah.
Like, he really wants to ego on these mid waves.
Yeah, and you can see, again, where Callme was like, okay, I can get onto Thanatos.
Yeah.
I have the Nocturne in my back pocket. We can do this. But the rest of C9 is actually already moving up here to group. The Nami wave comes out, and again, even though Callme is able to shut down Thanatos, it's very at what cost with the rest of C9 being able to control the fight.
Yeah, I really like what Thanatos did with his stealth timing there. It made it difficult for them to kill him. Lyonz needed to place that wall better as well, because I think they could have killed him a little bit faster. That's not going to change the 7,000 gold lead and the overall result of that fight. Thanatos did end up dropping anyway, and now we'll see what C9 can get done with this Baron.
Yeah, and unfortunately for DSG, they're not even on Soul Point because C9 got that one dragon. It's not like Disguise can try to do some big Hail Mary play at the next dragon spawn to secure themselves an Ocean Soul and maybe claw back a little bit that way. So unfortunately for DSG, it's starting to seem like the end of the show here in Game 2.
And I'd also say this is the best series that Cloud9 has played so far in spring to this point. So they had a big lead in their Sentinels Game 2 as well, and then we shockingly went to a Game 3. So it's not over till it's over, but they have looked very dominant in Game 1, aside from APA's 6 deaths, and that was all part of the plan. He got to say mid-gap afterwards, and clearly the mental damage was what's leading to this lead. But overall, they're just playing more coordinated, and they're team fighting really cleanly.
Yeah, I think that is the big thing to me, right?
Yeah.
Is like C9 being able to kind of see both the beginning and the end of a team fight, even when they're getting jumped on by this Nocturne combo. And like we already identified, part of that is a lack of follow-up CC from DSG.
All right, C9, they're trying to break into the base here in the top lane tier 3 turret. Zven's the target anytime DSG looks at anything, but when he's got Vulcan right behind him, APA and Blaber ready to immediately burst anyone that dives under the Corki, it feels like an impossible assignment for the Disguised side, as you do have Castle in bottom lane trying to at least grab an objective bounty on the tier 2 turret, but that's not really going to matter a whole lot over here in mid. However, Thanatos does get picked. It's Sajed and KryRa making a 2v1 angle there onto the enemy top laner, but at the entire cost of a Nexus turret. All right, C9 with a 4-man push versus 2 defenders from Disguised, but now DSG's bringing everybody in for the 5v4 play. This could be their full send. C9 trying to see how they want to position here for this fight, but Blaber has already missed the ultimate. C9 getting back, looking to focus on Callme here in the back line first, and Vulcan takes him out with a tidal wave through the smoke as Castle slices forward, but he dices right into his own demise. 5v4 ain't gonna matter. C9 will slam the team fight anyway. Only Sajed's left alive, but the Caitlyn ain't getting away. That's an ace for APA and C9, 18-4, 25 minutes into the game. C9, 2-0 Disguise.
And that's the series. Blaber's Ambessa 5-0-11. They just brute forced the Nexus in a 4v5 to end it.
We posed the question at the beginning of the day, is the blasting wand a circle or is it a straight line? It is a straight line all the way through. First Griffin, then KryRa. Blaber has, he's established himself in a good spot so far here.
Yeah, and maybe, like, outside of some shenanigans in Game 1, like in the mid-game, this is the kind of strongest we've seen C9 come out and look in a series where there were clear things that they were going for in their wins, and their team fighting just looked so much cleaner and more coordinated.
Yeah, completely agree. You can see they're relieved a little bit on stage. I'm not even really, just kind of happier. There's been a sense of tension in these other series when I see them win post-game, and we're going to be able to get Blaber's thoughts. Spam the chat to see who your player of the game is. My vote this time is Blaber.
Yeah, I'm going Blaber as well.
He controlled the crabs.
Wait,
and
that
then the
means
game.
we control the vote, right?
We control the vote. The player of the game is Blaber. Analyst, what do you think?